Nick Saban probably feels like he's got a mess on his hands. He's probably not really sure exactly what he's going to do with it because Alabama kind of limped to a 17-3 win over South Florida.
God!
Yeah, it was bad.
God, please, no!
It was. Everything about that game was horrible.
That's the mood in Tuscaloosa right now.
And we'll talk about the mood in Tuscaloosa, but I just want to touch on the shenanigans that happened in Tampa. Well, one, there was a lightning delay that causes the camera crew for ESPN, they pull the camera guys. So now there's just 2 wide shots. We're just getting all 22 footage. And all I see is, the first thing I see in this game is Tyler Buckner, who has started this game in lieu of Jalen Milroe, the Notre Dame transfer. And he's just, every single ball, and you can barely see it because we're looking at this game from the International Space Station. I can see nothing. I just see little ants throwing a little tiny pebble around. I see Tyler Buckner continually just throwing it out of bounds. Nothing is going correct for Alabama. And whenever I ended up I had to look away from the game for about for the second half. Whenever I looked away, it was 3-0, and I was like, wow, that's certainly not where you would think Alabama would be against South Florida. They end up pulling Tyler Buckner. Ty Simpson comes into the game, doesn't really do much better. Interestingly enough, Jalen Milroe never enters the game, which I've heard some varying reports. There's been conflicting reports, I should say, about whether or not he was suspended for this game. But I'm not going to speculate on that. But he did not play in the football game. He is the starter now. He is starting against Ole Miss on Saturday, which is certainly a development which we can get into a little bit more later on, but it was certainly a disaster. 17-3 win for Alabama. They do come away with the victory, but against the South Florida Bulls, which that stadium was filled with, I'd say 75% Alabama fans. It was a lot of fans. There was a lot of red in that stadium. I don't know if that was either fans or empty Raymond James Stadium seats, but either or, Alabama, you would think, even on the road against South Florida, would come up with a much more inspiring performance.
Yeah, and I mean, entering halftime, who would have thought that the Alabama Crimson Tide and the South Florida Bulls would be tied at 3 apiece? I mean, it was a shocking performance. I mean, throughout and starting early on, but I mean, fortunately for Alabama, they pulled it together for parts of the game and got that 17-3 win. But yeah, I mean, using both quarterbacks, Tyler Buckner and Ty Simpson, combined, they went 10 for 23 for 107 yards. I mean, that's pretty disgusting.
That makes me want to vomit.
And so there's some stuff going on, and we think, or at least I think, just from the outside looking in that staff, in that building, they had a players-only meeting a couple days ago, and I saw a funny tweet. It was like, hopefully that's without the quarterbacks, because that's what's holding them back right now. Yeah. Those 3 quarterbacks. I mean, Alabama has a very talented roster. Everyone agrees that Alabama's roster is a top 5, if not top 2, most talented roster in the country, right? I'd say that that's probably true.
Yep.
But if you have subpar quarterback play, one of them is Jalen Milroe, who's extremely limited in what he's able to do. He's an excellent runner. He has great speed. He's very athletic, but his passing ability is not great. Then there's Tyler Buckner, who, I'm going to be honest, guys, when I saw that he was transferring from Notre Dame, obviously he transferred from Notre Dame to go to Alabama because his offensive coordinator at Notre Dame was becoming the offensive coordinator at Alabama, so that makes a little bit of sense. But I never saw anything great out of Tyler Buckner at Notre Dame. They lost to Marshall while he was the quarterback, and they lost to Stanford while he was the quarterback there. So really didn't really understand why Tyler Buckner would inspire a lot of confidence. And then Ty Simpson is just young and inexperienced. Ty Simpson, there's not a lot to say about him.
Yeah, I don't think Nick Saban really has a choice now. After seeing what he saw on Saturday,
got to go back to Milroe.
You have to. And I think it's so weird because Alabama has obviously been so dominant pretty much my entire lifetime. We're so used to seeing the Alabama Crimson Tide at the top of the college football world. And they've produced some quarterbacks over the last few years that, Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa, now Bryce Young. And so it's so weird to me that now we look at Bama and they have a quarterback problem.
Well, it's sorry to cut you off there, but it's kind of weird how everything comes full circle in terms of the Nick Saban era at Alabama. If you look at their national championships from '09 to the late O's, is that what you call them? I guess O's, zeros?
Late 2000s.
Late 2000s. There you go. What am I doing here?
The
Late
late
2000s,
O's.
early 2010s. A different era, admittedly, in college football, but the quarterbacks that Alabama was throwing out there was the Greg McElroys of the world. A.J. McCarron was the quarterback for Alabama.
A.J. McCarron.
So, certainly not Heisman caliber quarterbacks, right? But then, they started getting those guys, Jalen Hurts, Tua, Mac Jones, Bryce Young, all those types of people. I mean, you look at the picture. There's that infamous picture of Jalen Hurts, Tua, and Mac Jones all in Alabama uniforms, in the same locker room, right? That's crazy. But now they're having that problem. And admittedly, if you're the Crimson Tide, and if you're Nick Saban, you have to know that with that quarterback room, it's almost impossible to compete for a national championship. You throw this team in the playoff, they're getting beat.
Yeah, they've not instilled much confidence for me to believe in Alabama, not even just for the college football playoff, but even competing for the SEC, in my opinion.
Well, SEC West at that, right?
Yeah,
Are they even going to win their division?
I don't want to speculate. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, that to me was overall pretty disappointing. And some people hope that they fail. Some people are going to prey on their downfall, but it is going to be interesting to see how Nick Saban pivots. This is definitely a challenge, a unique challenge that he hasn't had to face in the last several years. So he's one of the greatest college football coaches of all time. If anyone could figure it out, it's him. But the quarterback problem might not be something that he can really fix this season.
There might not be an easy fix to it right now, immediately. Yeah. And honestly, given his mannerisms and stuff like that, and this will be the last thing I say at Alabama, I kind of think that this is his last year.